What does bisexual mean? This seems to be a question that many people can't seem to answer. Some people even just answer it completely wrong. So, what does bisexual mean? Well, the main definition would be someone attracted to two or more genders. As you could probably guess by the or more, bisexuality can be experienced in multiple different ways. For example, you can have someone who's attracted to men and women and someone who's attracted to all genders, and they would both still be bi. Sadly, because a lot of people don't know this definition, it causes a lot of tension between everyone else and us. This tension causes us to feel left out of not only straight communities, but even the LGBT plus community, which is a little ironic considering we're in the acronym. So where does this tension come from? Simple. It's the biphobia that exists in both of these communities. But how did this biphobia come about, especially in LGBT plus spaces? Another simple explanation. It's the misconceptions and misinformation that are constantly being spread about us. And all of these have really hurt us and caused us to seem like a lesser or non-existent sexuality. One big example as to how biphobia hurts us is that now many people are afraid to date us. Even gay men and lesbians feel hesitant about entering into relationships with bi people. This is because some of the misconceptions around us just make us seem undateable. So now, what are some of these misconceptions? Well, some pretty prevalent ones would be that we're more likely to cheat, that we're a lesser version of pansexual, that we refuse to date trans people, and that we're straight passing. Now, there are still sadly many, many more out there, but I'd probably be here all day if I discussed all of them, sadly. Now, why are these misconceptions false? Well, for some, these should hopefully be obvious, but for others it may not be, so let's quickly go over them. First, the idea that bi people are more likely to cheat is just wrong. I promise that bi people have the same chances of cheating as anyone else in the world. I mean, think of it this way. Would you go running towards every single attractive person you met? If that answer is no, which I'd hope it is, then why assume this of bi people? I like to think of it this way. A bi person could have chosen almost anybody in the world, but they still chose their partners. I think it's a little bit more poetic if you put it that way. Then, there seems to be this idea that bi people are a lesser version of pansexual. If you don't know what pansexual is, it's an orientation that means you're attracted to all genders. Now, this is a misconception that came about because of a bunch of smaller ones coming together to form this really large one. I could honestly make a whole talk on this concept alone, so to keep it simple, yes, we can like all genders just like pan people do. If you remember our two or more from our definition earlier, then I'm sure you can easily see how that could include all genders. And adding on to this, there seems to be this idea that pan people only date trans people because they're attracted to all genders, unlike bi people. And not only is this wrong, it's inherently transphobic, as it implies trans people aren't the gender that they are. If I'm attracted to women, then why wouldn't I also be attracted to trans women who are, guess what, women? And finally, there's this really large idea that we have this straight passing privilege. Many seem to believe that since we're half gay, we can avoid bigotry and persecution more easily than others. And I can promise that that is a complete lie. I've heard way too many bi people talk about how they're rejected or not believed when they come out to friends and family and have to still continue to hide who they are in fear of the response from others. It doesn't matter if I can be attracted to guys. The fact that I can also be attracted to women and other genders will still upset homophobes, and it won't make them any nicer towards us either. Now, what are the causes of these misconceptions? Well, we could easily brush it off as homophobes being homophobes, and while that is a problem we have to deal with, it isn't necessarily our main one. Our main problem is just people outside of the bi community constantly spreading misinformation about us. Now, does this include homophobes? Obviously, yes. However, so many more people are involved in this too. Even people with the best of intentions can accidentally end up spreading this third-hand information. This is because so many people are always trying to talk over us and define our own terms themselves. This has caused bi voices to be drowned out and our own answers and definitions to be ignored as well. Now, how do we go about solving these problems? Well, the best way to do this would be to listen to us whenever we talk about these topics. One quick and easy way to do this would be to ask yourself if you know any bi people in your life. If the answer is yes, then I'm sure they'll be willing to talk to you about bisexuality and answer any questions you might have about it. But what if you don't know any bi people? Then the internet will be your friend. There are thousands of sources online that talk about and discuss anything you're interested in knowing. Have a question? I guarantee you can find your answer with a quick Google search. And if you don't mind doing a bit of reading, go check out the Bisexual Manifesto. It's a great primary source that talks about and discusses bisexuality and is definitely worth a read. So as you can see, there are multiple different ways in which you can educate yourself about bisexuality. Overall, I just really want people to listen to what we have to say, instead of making quick assumptions that are probably wrong. Bi people tend to feel trapped in this purgatory between straight communities and the LGBT plus community. Many of us feel like we don't belong in either of these. But actually listening to us and elevating our voices can help these misconceptions slowly disappear and let bi people feel a sense of belonging in the LGBT plus community again.